Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is Liz Loves Books. Today I'm going to be doing just a super short and sweet tag, and I was very lucky and I was tagged by Ashley Hearts Reading over here on YouTube, and this is the book opinions tag. I will have the original creator down in the description as well as Ashley's channel too. So let's just get started, super quick and short. So these are just going to be like bookish hot takes and opinions on certain ideas within the bookish world. So our first one is reading the last page first. I'm going to answer these with just like a yes, no, or maybe. This one is a definite no. I hate spoilers. I hate getting spoiled for anything, whether that's books, movies, TV, anything else that can be spoiled. I absolutely hate it, especially if I'm planning on getting to it at one point or another. No, 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 no. And then we have enemies to lovers, and I am a yes if it is done right and they're actual enemies to lovers. For example, like the Bridge Kingdom series by Danielle L. Jensen, that first duology, they are actual enemies and they don't like each other at all until like 75% of the book, and even then they're still like, are you using me for this? Are you using me for that? So I hate the one where it's like, we're enemies for 10% of the book, and then I talk to you for like a conversation, and then we're just love each other endlessly. It happens so much, and it really annoys me. Then the next one is dream sequences, and I said maybe. It gets you really excited, or at least me as the reader, but then I get angry once I realize it's actually a dream. Especially if I've been waiting a while for the characters to, like, get together. So then love triangles. I feel like I'm gonna be somewhat controversial, but also not, and I'm gonna say no, only because every book I've ever read that's a love triangle, it's never actually a love triangle. There's always one character that our main character likes more than the other, and it's so obvious as well. If they were both like even playing field 50-50, then I would probably love it, because I'd be like, ooh, who's gonna win? And that's the point of a love triangle, but I feel like it never ever occurs. Although I have heard that Cassandra Clare's The Infernal Devices trilogy has a really great love triangle that actually is a love triangle. So then we have cracked spines. For me, no. I don't like to have them cracked. Sometimes I will have them accidentally crack, and then I kind of cry. But for you, you do you. Whatever. But if I'm borrowing you a book, you can't crack my spines. Otherwise, I will come after you. Then we have Back to My Small Town. Yes, especially contemporary romances. I feel like that is like a perfect setting for Back to Small Town. Then we have monsters are real people. And I put a question mark, or maybe because I don't really know what that actually means. Are they meaning like they're like a shifter, like a dragon and a human? Or I didn't really know. So I don't know. Then we have no paragraph breaks. I put a no. I very rarely have liked any books that with no paragraph breaks. I think the only one I've ever read that I've liked is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. And that still has like a little bit of breaks, but then we have multi-generational sagas, and I'm gonna say maybe, because I don't think I've ever read a series that actually has multi-generational sagas, and I love the idea, but I get overwhelmed by it. Like ones that are like really popular, I know there's like Pachinko by Min Jin Lee is a multi-generational saga. I have it on my TBR, and it sounds so interesting, but I feel like I'm just gonna be so overwhelmed. And then also The Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wang. I started it and then I stopped because I was just like, I can't keep track of who is who, so I have to really be in the right mindset for it. But it can be done really well. So then we have rereading. Yes, I think it's a great way to get out of a slump. Sometimes it's hard to convince myself to reread because I'm like, what if I had missing out on another book that's also going to be 5 stars and a favorite? So I kind of switch back and forth between yes and no. Then we have artificial intelligence. I'm going to say for me, it's a no, mainly because I don't like sci-fi books. I am trying to step out of my comfort zone just a little bit, and I am going to start Red Rising today as I'm filming this, actually. And I know that that's like a sci-fi fantasy, so I'm hoping that maybe that will help me a little bit. But like AI, all that stuff just freaks me out, and there's too much of it in the real world, and I don't want it in my books. So then drop caps, I had to look with this one up because I didn't know what it was. I don't really have a preference. It doesn't really matter to me. Then happy endings. I say yes and no. If it's romance, I always want a happy ending. But if it's fantasy, it can be a no, because I have read 1 or 2 books that haven't had a happy ending, even though it technically was. It just wasn't for the main character in a way. I don't want to like describe anymore because otherwise it'll spoil what I was talking about. So moving on. Then we have a detailed magic system, and I said yes, as long as it's understandable. Sometimes magic systems are so detailed that I don't understand anything that's going on, even though I really, really, really want to. And I feel like if it's a detailed magic system, I can only like read it physically, because trying to understand a detailed magic system on audio is difficult for me. Then we have plot points that only converge at the end. I put maybe, as long as they converge eventually, I'm good. If they're never converged, then I won't be a happy camper. And then we have classic fantasy races. Yes, although I would love to see like some new and inventive fantasy races. I think that would be cool. And we have unreliable narrators, and I'm saying yes, but specifically only if it's like a thriller mystery, because I feel like that makes like the twists that are at the end more twisty. Other than like thrillers, maybe some lit fic can have an unreliable narrator, but it kind of depends for me. Then we have evil protagonists, and I put maybe because it depends on the level of evil. I know these are supposed to be black and white questions, but I'm not making them that. Yeah, it just depends on the level of evilness, whether they can be redeemed or not. So then we have the chosen one, and this one is a yes, as long as the chosen one actually like learns their powers and learns how to use them, and isn't just handed everything and just automatically somehow knows within their being to how to do everything. That always really irritates me. I understand it's a little bit more common in YA, but it can happen in adult too. So in YA, I'm like a little bit more understanding about it, but in adult, no. Then we have when the protagonist dies, and I said maybe only if it serves like a really good purpose for the story, or if they're just like an old age, then it makes sense. Really long chapters, I said maybe. If it's on audio, I don't really care how long the chapter is. And if it's an ebook, it usually doesn't bother me too much, but if it's a physical book, I like can't. Because I can't, if I'm physically reading, I can't stop until I'm done at a chapter. Because otherwise, I don't know, it's just me and a brain thing. So if it's like a chapter's 50 pages, I'm like, I can't stop for 50 pages, you know? Then we have French flaps. I put a no. I just don't like how they look, and they end up kind of like folding over and creasing and getting bent. And one time I got a paper cut from them, so I don't like them. And then moving on to deckled edges, same thing. No, I hate the feeling of them. I hate the look of them. They're not as common anymore as they used to be, although a book that I got this year, The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings, has deckled edges, and I'm like, why? The cover is stunning, and then the deckled edges are just awful. Okay, then we have signed copies by the author. Yes, I love a signed copy, especially if it's like a personalized message, but any signed copy is super, super fun. Okay, moving on to our last 2 book opinions. We have dog-earing pages. For my books, no. I don't want them dog-eared. If they're your books, you do you. If you're going to borrow mine, I'd prefer they're not dog-eared. Yeah. And then the last one is chapter titles instead of numbers. I'd say yes, because I kind of like how chapter titles sometimes have a theme to whatever's going on in that chapter, or just the story in general. Chapter numbers is just kind of like, okay, chapter 1, woo, you know. Alrighty, that is the end of the book opinions tag. Thanks for joining me today. Again, I will link both Ashley down in the description and the person who created this tag and all of my other socials and everything if you were interested. Let me down below what your bookish opinions are, and I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye guys.
Baby girl, you are so pretty, pretty.